First, I was really scared to do it, but now I want to do it on all of my instruments. This is such a game changer. I love it. Setting up a bitchy folk instrument for the stage is a bit of a challenge. And how do you do that? I'm going to show you. I just finished 2 tours, 30 Europe dates and 8 Australia and New Zealand dates with Hailstorm. So I just did that whole process 38 times in a row. And I did it with 2 different instruments. The second one is this one. The other one is in Europe. But I tried to set them up in very similar ways. And I found a couple of things that really helped me on stage that I wouldn't want to miss ever again. And I think I'm going to set up all my instruments like that. So this is a very stage-specific video. It's not a general setting up video. So with Hailstorm, I do not play drones or trumpets. So setting these up for the stage is a whole different story. And also very challenging, probably even more challenging. But the Hailstorm songs are written more for like violins and fiddling. So I do fiddling techniques a lot, like these kind of bowing things. Also, the songs are not written for like folk keys or like folk instruments that play in specific keys, like the Gerth. So I constantly have to detune my strings like a semitone up and down. And all of that goes into planning and basically rehearsing the songs. So all of that is part of that process. I just need to have my list on when I have to tune, and I need to know how many seconds of time I have for that. Sometimes I will even like rather skip an outro or like a last tone that the band plays and rather switch to tuning real quick. So to tune real quick, you need a good tuner. It doesn't really matter which one, just make sure it's a good one, and maybe also make sure that it's also appropriate for, not only for like guitars, but also for bass, because then they pick up the bass frequencies a lot better. And also make sure that it's a chromatic tuner, because a lot of clip-on tuners are made for guitars and made for the standard guitar tunings basically, but we need a lot more tones than that. We need a chromatic tuner that is capable of hearing bass frequencies. On a stage that is double as hard because you have so many other frequencies and noises, so you want to make sure you can really rely on it. The next thing would be, basically as soon as I get out of an airplane or get into a backstage, I make sure that nothing's broken on my instrument. I make sure all the keys are working, nothing got stuck because of a temperature or humidity change. And if something got stuck, I will immediately take it out and sand it down. Or if something happens on stage and a key gets stuck, what you can do is actually, if you, because it's just wood, so it expands, if you press the key, and sometimes you can already feel it if it got stuck on this side of the tangent box or on this side. And then what you can do is you hold on to it on the other side. I don't know if you can see that. And then you kind of push it against all the like corners, walls and ceilings, all the right, left and upper lower parts of the tangent box wood to try and expand this motion range by force, basically. This has saved me several times on stage when there was just no chance of taking it out and sanding it down because I don't have time, I have to play a show. So press it against the walls. And maybe you already saw it, I started painting all of my keys white on the top. Because we have such an extreme light show with so many colors, with strobes, with so much darkness, and I have to function in the most absurd light circumstances and situations. There's disco balls, there's flashes, there's so much jumping around, and I need the highest contrast possible when I'm working with my instrument on stage. So white keys, only white keys from now on. Black keys on a green surface just don't give me enough contrast. I guess if you have this part of the wood white and then black keys, that's fine too. I just want white keys because this little tiny bit of light that I sometimes have on stage, I need to see where I'm at. That brings us to the next key hack, which is, don't know if you can see that, but I started putting instant glue on certain keys. So I can basically read them like Braille. I just did this yesterday night and it's a bit ugly. I'm gonna clean that up. But what this does, this is basically like 5 layers of instant glue. So that I can, yeah, it basically feels like extreme Braille, like it's a pretty big blob. And I put it, and this is completely individual, like you can put yours on other kinds of keys. I like to put them on this C key and then the octave C key, and this one I'm marking with 2 dots. Basically like on a guitar fretboard. On the octave, I think they're marked with 2 dots. So I just adopted that and I'm doing the same on my Gertie. And then I also marked the G, which is kind of like, it's like half of the string scale measurement. So I also wanted something there. Yeah, just to know where is half of my string. And then what I just added is that I marked my E flats, not with a very high marking, but like with a completely different shape. I actually did like a half circle shape. I just wanted some kind of haptic symbol to know where on my flats keys, like where on my black piano keys I am. It's purely so that I can jump around and play without looking down, because I'm singing in my microphone, I'm holding eye contact with people in the crowd, I am making silly faces. I want to avoid looking down or having to look down on my instrument as much as I can, because it kind of interrupts my performance. And you know what? That is totally possible by just putting on a couple of blobs of instant glue. And first I was really scared to do it, but now I want to do it on all of my instruments. This is such a game changer. I love it. I love it. It feels like home now, because I can navigate it in the dark. It's awesome. I love it. Yeah. We'll definitely do this on my other Gerties. I don't even care. And you can always sand it down if you don't like it anymore. So how do I set up the strings? So this completely depends on what kind of songs you're playing. I do a lot of fiddling, so I have to set them up for the fiddle techniques. How I do that is basically, so you put on your cotton like you normally would. Okay, I'm going to show this with 1 string. And for those who don't know at all, the Gertie needs cotton on the strings to have more friction with the wheel bow. Otherwise, the sound is a little bit thin and airy, and we want more friction. You can imagine it a bit like a violin bow. You know, it has those horse hairs, and those hairs, just like human hair, they have like structure. So there's some friction that can that basically helps the string vibrate and create a tone. But obviously on those synthetic wheels, we don't have that amount of friction. So we create it with cotton. And yeah, every Gertie player has their own method of what kind of cotton they like. I still love a long fiber viscose cotton. It's just my favorite. And what I do is I take a small amount, and actually if I'm going to set up for fiddling, I will already put a drop of rosin on my little finger. I do it on the little finger because I don't need this finger to play the gurdy, so it can be sticky and I don't care. On any other finger it would be annoying. So, and then I set up my cotton to the width that I want, and then I just wrap it around. And I think these days I use a lot less cotton than I used to in the beginning, but it also completely depends on the gurdy. Like some gurdies and some wheels just want more cotton. And let's see, maybe this is enough, but I'm going to give it like another couple of seconds to dry. This is a very thin layer, but sometimes, especially the thin layers, are better for fiddling, because then you've definitely got less movement and you can compress it better. And the less the cotton moves, the more exact the fiddling will be. I hear cotton moving. It's so annoying. You don't want that when you fiddle. Yeah, did you hear it move? It made like like a very slightly different sound. It's because it was moving. To compress it, you kind of twist. I know it sounds awful. You twist the string in your 2 fingers. And just roll it. It's better. It's not perfect. I can still hear a difference. I don't know if you hear that. Yeah, I can definitely hear the tone changing. So let's try and compress it a bit more. Yeah, I feel like that just got a bit better. So that's how you find your way to that. Another important thing is, so in the Elstrom set, I play all those 3 melody strings. I have them to the low G, so like the low violin G, then the violin D, and then the octave G. But I never play them together, so I only ever play 1 melody string at a time. If you were to play 2 together, like at the same time, there would be a lot more setting up to do. And I try to avoid it because I have so much to deal with on the stage already. So, but usually I also don't need it, especially when I play in a band because there's so many other instruments already. So on a couple of Elstrom songs, I have to do something that sounds less like fiddling, but more like djenting, really. Basically, I remember the parts of the songs that need an extreme technique, that needs special setting up. One of them being this djenty part. So that's in Fanny Boss. This one has those low tones and then this djenty fiddly stuff. And I noticed that this needs an especially high amount of string pressure. So I will actually set up this string with a bit more pressure than I would usually be comfortable with. And another thought just came to my head, which is that the sound of the pickup and the natural sound, they are different. And through the pickup, you hear the friction of string pressure a bit less than in a natural sound. So actually you can put more string pressure. It won't mess with the sound as much as if you just had a room mic hearing the natural sound. So actually that kind of disguises it. It just makes it a bit louder, tiny bit louder, and every audio engineer will probably thank you for that. So that's just good. Every time you change the string pressure, you also have to adjust the tuning. So yeah, that's pretty scratchy, pretty rough. And if it's that much string pressure, that usually again messes with the high tones, because the intonation of the high tones will be affected. They are affected by the amount of cotton, how well you compressed it, and how much string pressure you have. Everything is affected by each other. So I will just go back and test real quick, because I know how high I have to play. I have to play until this C. So I will just check if I can still play the higher tones with the very rough setting that I have for the lower ones. I can still play, so this string is set. Now I would go and repeat that for the 2 other strings and make sure that every time I change the pressure, the string pressure, I make sure to not affect the other strings too much. I'll go back and check that. And if there's no other way, what I start doing is I start building up, you know, you can take pieces of thin plastic or paper to lift the string a bit, especially this middle string, in case you need to change only this string pressure and not affect the others. But you have to tune it down a lot to loosen it, to get the paper under, and then tune it up again. And this change of the whole, that's not called pressure, that's called tension, again messes with all the other pressures. So every time I would change that much tension, I again will go back and quickly test all the other strings if that affected them. And by the way, just to make things worse, I told you it's a bitchy instrument. Just to make things worse, every time you change the height of this bridge to adjust the string pressure, you're technically also changing the intonation of all of your tangents. Yeah, you basically have to go back and change the little screws, because as soon, you have to imagine it like that. If this is your string, this is the saddle, this is the bridge, and you're moving the bridge up, that will, in the like 1/4 of a millimeter range, kind of mess with the measurement of the string, because you also have to adjust the tuning. If you go up and down, that makes the string higher or lower. So as soon as you adjust it, you have basically also changed the measurement of the string, which then again is why we have to change all the little screws of the tangents. And this is 100 screws. So if you change this a bit more than usual, you technically have to go back and adjust your intonation. Have fun with that. Yeah, that's a 1-hour job if you're fast. For Ailstorm, I needed to play with a capo. So yeah, I just have a melody capo on the A key, which is not too special. A lot of Gerties have that, or you can actually go and upgrade your Gertie if you need that, just to have an open A. It helps me with a lot of songs in crazy keys, because they would be really hard to, like, if I do like interval jumps and, you know, my hand is only that large. I do have quite large hands, but sometimes that's a bit crazy and you just run out of fingers, because you usually only play with 4 fingers. Sometimes I play with 5, like with an anchor. So that's the only time in a whole Ailstorm set that I'll be playing with my thumb. It's just to get that scale. I usually avoid it, especially because when I'm standing up and I'm wearing my Gertie quite low because I want to look cool. It's actually terrible for your back. Try to avoid it. And that makes playing with your thumb even harder, because you kind of have to add an extra corner to your arm, and that's terrible ergonomics. Try to avoid it. I just use it in 1 second. I would say the better you know your instrument, the better your concert experience will be. Every instrument is so different and has its own character and its own weird little crooked ways. So the more you know those little crooked ways, know how to prevent them or to work with them, the better. For example, the amount of pressing that I can do on a key, you know that it will change the intonation too. So if I press too hard, that almost went up a semitone, right? So all of those little things are very specific to the specific instrument, to the unique instrument that you're playing. So the more you know about your instrument, the better your playing will be. I just know I have to be very careful with the pressure on the keys when I play this one live. Also, since it's headless, the strings take a very extreme like corner turn, especially this one, which makes the tuning a bit less stable. It's just kind of the death you have to die if you want to have a travel-friendly Gertie, I guess. There's not much you can do about that. But it's good to know that, because that means every little second I have on stage where I don't have to play, I turn around and tune. I check my tunings, like sometimes 2 times, 3 times in a song, before every song. And then again, sometimes I have to even detune. And detuning a semitone on stage is totally fine. It works. Usually it holds enough, at least until the next tiny break where I can check my tuning again. I guess I'm a bit of a tuning fanatic. Obviously, make sure all your batteries are charged if that's specific to your instrument. And have everything set up in the best ways. Tie excess little annoying things away with little plastic hair bubbles. Make sure you have enough space for electronics. Make sure your Gertie is just generally set up well. And then I guess you're ready for the stage. So have fun, and in case you just watch this, not because you have a Gertie, but you just like to watch people nerd out about instruments, thank you for watching. I really appreciate that. Hope you enjoyed yourself. See you in the next video. Bye!